So something I'd like to talk about is confession, or the sacrament of reconciliation, but many call confession. And it's something which has been really important to me throughout most of my life. I remember going as a little child to confession, quite scary, quite difficult. And as an adult, as a priest, I've always gone to confession, and it's been something very, very important in my life as a Catholic, in my life as a Christian, in my life as a priest. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about why that's the case and how confession could be really beneficial to you. And we seem to have a confession crisis in the church. No one seems to want to go to confession. We have like hundreds of people going to Mass on a Sunday, but I don't have hundreds of people coming to confession. And it's just a kind of problem why people don't seem to, I don't know, want to accept that they have sin in their life, or maybe they're just too afraid to come to confession. I don't know. I'd love to hear from you if you've got any thoughts on that. Maybe you struggle with going to confession. Why do you struggle? I'd love to hear why as a priest, because I think personally I've not struggled. I find it quite necessary for me as a priest, as a Catholic. So yeah, it'd be great to hear your thoughts. But a couple of kind of funny story. One funny story I had was when I was, I'd just been ordained as a priest. I think I'd been ordained 1 or 2 years. And I went to Rome with my mum for a couple of days. And I went to the Vatican. And I thought, I'm going to go to confession in the Vatican, because that's going to be really amazing. And I'm on pilgrimage to Rome. And I went to confession, and the priest just shouted at me, about how bad my sins were. And I kind of knew that my sins were bad. That's why I went to confession. That's the whole point of confession. And he shouted at me. And I felt really upset after that. I was really upset. And I hear from lots of people who say, oh yeah, I had a really bad experience of confession, so I've stopped going to confession. Now, it didn't stop me going to confession, because I know I need confession, and one bad experience does not kind of sum up every experience. I've had some really beautiful encounters in confession, sometimes where I think, the priest's going to be really angry with me now, and then the priest has been really lovely. So I've had some really lovely encounters, and I try to be like that myself. If someone comes to me to confession with something difficult, say they're burdened with something they're really struggling with, they might be embarrassed about, I try to be really nice, because I know I've been in that situation where I've been embarrassed or ashamed of something. And all you need in those moments is just like some gentleness and some kindness. You know you've done wrong. You don't need someone to tell you you've done wrong. You just need someone maybe to give you some hope to get out of that very difficult situation. I think confession can really change your life, because you're talking to another human being about a problem, so there's kind of something in that. Also, you're opening your heart to God, so that's the most important thing. You're opening your heart to God, and you're receiving his forgiveness and his love to help you not to do that thing wrong again. Because I know we all struggle with, if we do something wrong, often it's something we tend to repeat, and confession really helps you to work at overcoming that and to take your life to a better place. So I think confession is very, very important there. Another question that people ask is, if you hear something really bad in confession, like someone's murdered someone, are you allowed to tell anyone about that? Now, the answer is no. And the answer is no for a very specific reason, that it protects everyone who comes to confession. Because if I was allowed then to say, dob in a murderer, well, why couldn't I then dob in an adulterer or someone else or someone else? Where would you draw the line? If you could break the anonymity and the confidentiality of confession for one group, why couldn't you then change the rules for another? So the whole thing is, whoever you are, whatever you've done, if you go to confession, the priest cannot tell anyone about what you've confessed. It's there not to safeguard criminals, it's there to safeguard you, to safeguard everyone, to safeguard all of our desire to go with our deepest secrets, our worst fears, our sins. That's why the sacrament works as it does, that God is the judge. Now, say someone did come to me and say, I've murdered my auntie. I don't have to give them absolution. That's the first thing. I've got to determine whether they're actually genuinely sorry. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I might say to them, look, if you're really sorry about this, if you're really sorry and you want God to believe you're sorry, you should now go to the police station and tell the police that you've done this. That would be a true sign of how sorry you are. So that would be something I probably would say in confession, if it was appropriate. So it's not like you want them to get away with it and say, oh yeah, come to confession, yeah, you're fine now, go and murder someone else. That's not how it works. But the whole point of the confidentiality is for everyone to feel comfortable in confession, that they can go and confess their sins and allow God to change their lives. So I hope some of that's helped, and love to hear your comments about what you think about confession and any experiences that you may have had somewhere around the world.